R3 hot plug, not the cold R5. You want to run a hotter plug when you're breaking in the engine. I'm also running Boom 30% braking fuel. It has a higher oil percent content to help with lapping in the bore and keep the temperature more stable. Because oil tends to raise the compression a little bit in the engine, make more heat, keep it stable for braking. You want to run 1 quart of this through the entire cycle. So right now I'm not halfway through the first tank. I'm going to set the temperature real quick at the glow plug. 193. It's holding idle pretty good. I'm getting oil. Plenty of oil, so the piston and the sleeve is being lubricated pretty well. Again, I'm running Nova Roasted carb on this one though. I'm not running the LRP carb. None is braking. One thing I gotta show, I push the engine off the spur, so there is no load on the engine. So the engine is pushed all the way back that way, off the spur, so there's no load on the engine. Okay, this is the first shutdown. Making sure that the piston is at bottom dead center. You don't want it to be cooling down with the piston up and seizing the piston in the sleeve. So make sure it's free. You can tell it's outside of the tightest area of the sleeve. So it's all the way down. It's gonna cool down now. As soon as it gets to ambient, which is around, I'll say 70 degrees right now outside. And then I'm gonna run one more tank through it after that first thermal shutdown, and then I'll be done for the night. So that'll be 3 tanks. Now I'm gonna run 2 tanks at quarter throttle tomorrow, and then the remaining 2 tanks from this to half to full throttle snaps, not holding down the throttle for more than say 3 seconds max. This is off-road engine, so you don't want to hold on to the throttle full bore for more than 3 seconds. So yeah, so I'm gonna continue with this tonight. Probably take 20 minutes to idle out the tank. I'm running really rich, and tomorrow I'll finish in the braking of the LRP 32X. And by the way, this one is modified by AMR. Running the Nova Rossi carb. I'm going to take the air filter off. I'm running 8.5 Venturi, and you could see my idle gap. Let's see if I can zoom in. A millimeter or so. That started perfectly. Running the LRP R3 hot plug. Once I'm done running the break-in with the hot plug, I will move to the R5 cold plug for tuning. Again, I'm running 30% nitro. This is the break-in fuel, but the running fuel is also 30% 3010 oil. So, you know, the higher nitro, you want to run the colder plug. So I'm gonna tune with the cold plug. I don't have a medium after I'm done breaking in with the hot plug. So it's cooling down right now. Let's see what we got on temps at the plug. 123 Fahrenheit for those who uses the metric scale. 47, 46, 47, 49, 50. So it's cooling down. Shooting for room ambient temperature right now in Indiana. Nice. Probably takes another 15 minutes to cool down. Stay tuned. So while we wait for the engine to cool down, by the way, let's see where it's at. 89. Give it 10 more degrees and now lower enough, and I'll start it. But why do we thermal cycle the engine? Well, the main reason is because you have dissimilar materials inside the engine. You have a heavy casted heatsink body and head. Both are aluminum. Aluminum is very conductive for heat than steel. It pulls heat in its direction. So if you had a steel member, if this was steel and this was aluminum, it will draw the heat this way and through conduction and convect it out to the air. In this case, aluminum is on the housing and aluminum is on the head. So that's the same material. So the rate of heat transfer is almost the same. Not taking the heat convection of the shape, but you know, let's focus on same versus different material. The rate of expansion is also the same. Now inside the aluminum housing, first you have a brass sleeve with a hard chrome inner lining, and then you have a clearance gap, and you have the piston. The piston is also aluminum. Connecting rod is aluminum, and the bushing is brass. So the bushing, so brass and aluminum have almost similar heat expansion rate. That's why they work well inside the engine. Now, as you heat the engine up, the housing here will expand, so the bore that's holding the sleeve will expand and take shape. You want it to expand, still being a cylindrical bore. When you machine these, they have internal stress, and you probably don't relieve all the stress during machining, but you have to kind of thermal cycle it to get the stresses out, because machining does impart stress inside
the material, cold work, for example. So there's internal stress that's inside the sleeve, sorry, the housing. The heat will kind of flex the housing itself and relieve some of that stress. Now remember, there's a dissimilar material that's touching this, which is the brass sleeve, which is close to the coefficient of expansion of aluminum, but aluminum still expands a little bit faster. So you want the engine to kind of get to a state of, let's say, ease of stress, if you will. So when you bring everything up to temperature, the internal stress of the parts, they kind of is relieved because they grow, and then they kind of contract when you cool them down, and they will kind of set into place, if you will. So when you press the sleeve inside the housing, it imparts more stress on the housing. When you thermocycle it, it kind of relieves that stress, and it kind of sets its full running condition for its life. Same thing with the piston. The only difference with the piston, it's that it grows on the OD while the engine is running. It grows for two reasons. It's aluminum, it gets hot. It expands like this. When it encounters the pressure, Poisson's ratio, if you squeeze on something from the top, it will budge on the side. So what happens is the piston expands at a very fast rate also, but it's driven by two things, pressure and temperature. But the sleeve is in the way, so you have to be careful not running the engine too hot to thin out the fuel, so you don't get lubricating properties, right? You want to run rich, you get the oil between the piston and the sleeve, so you maintain that film, because the piston will try to season the engine or season it in the sleeve if you run it too hot. If you also run it too hot, it will take out the Conrad bearing. The clearance between the bearing, to be honest, I don't know. I'm gonna assume it's around 5 microns, and it's hard to generate film thickness and all this load that's on the engine. And if the temperature is really hot, the fuel becomes less viscous and probably start to boil if it's really hot. So you can't maintain a film pressure between the connecting rod pin and the bearing, and then you have no lubrication, or you have a lot of heat at the pin and it seizes in the bearing and you trash the engine. That's typically what happens when you run the engine too hot. So again, thermal cycle just kind of normalize all the internal stress. It flexes the parts on both extremes. On the hot side, then you contract right now. So I expect it to start up and run on my second go ahead right here, and I expect it to run even a bit cooler than before. So I'm gonna check the temperatures again. 84 Fahrenheit. I don't think it's gonna get any colder than that for tonight. 82. So I'm gonna restart it right now and see what it does. I'm gonna try to start it on camera, see if that, let's see here, line up my starter box. Okay. Battery is low. Shut off, I can hear it. Load it up, so I'm gonna cheat.
sun is almost down. Before I started it the last time, I said we're going to try to hope that the temperature returns to where it was before Southern Mass, which was at 180 degrees. So let's see. Close enough. So it's going to run a little leaner as the tank goes down. I think that's what's happening. It's almost empty. It's going to run a little bit leaner. Okay, so it's done right now for tonight, guys. So I shut it down by stalling the flywheel. I did not pinch the lines or block the exhaust. Both are other way. Those other ways can work, but it's not good for the engine. When you do this, you hydrolock the engine, which is not good. And then when you pinch line, if you're not tuned right, you will run probably 4 seconds very lean before it shuts off, so kind of scuff. It takes just a small amount of time to scuff the piston, so you don't want to do that. So it's best to stall the engine mechanically by stopping the flywheel. So tomorrow I'll resume with the remainder of the Bones brew. Pretty oily stuff, which is good for braking, kind of lapping in the engine, if you will. It's not required, but I do this on my modded engines and my premium engines like Picos and Novorossis. The RTRs, I do not run braking oil. I run the regular fuel that I will use in the car. I only spend the time and the effort on the non-RTR engines and the modded engines, the premium ones. So stay tuned. Bye.